We begin in Venezuela. President Nicolas Maduro has announced new measures to counter the destabilization efforts of the right-wing opposition. This Saturday, a massive supply of essential goods has been sent out to 24 major cities, where the U.S.-linked opposition and businessmen have hoarded large amounts of products to cause anger and chaos among the population. Maduro also spoke Friday against the visit of 3 ex-presidents, including Felipe Calderón from Mexico. Talks between Cuba and the United States reached an impasse as profound differences surfaced regarding Washington's interest in transforming the island nation to its convenience. The Cuban official Josefina Vidal, who led the talks with the U.S. delegation, said that Washington needs to remove Cuba from their list of countries that allegedly sponsor terrorism before any progress can be made. She also said that in order to achieve a true normalization of bilateral relations, the U.S. needs to lift the illegal 50-year blockade on the island nation. Government officials said Friday that rogue agents from Argentina's own intelligence services were behind the death of Alberto Nisman, a state prosecutor and lead investigator in the deadly 1994 bombing of a Jewish community center that killed 85 people and injured hundreds in Buenos Aires. His death and the array of conspiracy theories surrounding it have rocked Argentina this week. Authorities now say his death is linked to a power struggle at the intelligence agency, pointing to agents who had recently been fired.
For Saira and her colleagues, working as a journalist in the violence-stricken state of Veracruz has become a question of survival.
Sí hay autocensura de muchos compañeros.
Yes, there is self-censorship of many colleagues. Yes, there are critical stories. And there are people that are digging up information from the state of Veracruz, but they are the minority. There are many colleagues who just try to survive.
Although state authorities say crime, corruption, and impunity has dropped in recent years, at least 10 journalists have been killed since 2011 and dozens of aggressions recorded. Journalist rights groups say Veracruz is exemplary of a pattern in other parts of the country.
Journalists are suffering many aggressions at the hands of municipal police. In states like Guerrero, Sinaloa, it happens frequently, and in Veracruz as well.
Many journalists say the precarious and dangerous state of media workers has increased in the past 2 years since the beginning of the current administration of Enrique Peña Nieto. However, rights groups and journalists are developing independent ways to document aggressions and to develop security measures to defend themselves and their work.
We have developed this extraordinary tool that we want to serve as a platform for joint efforts so that together we can undertake the systematic defense of fellow journalists.
La defensa sistemática de los compañeros periodistas.
Analysts say these digital tools are only a limited way to protect journalists and freedom of expression and will not tackle the root causes of violence and corruption. Clayton Can, Telesur, Mexico City.
The Brazilian Ministry of Environment has called on residents to conserve water as the country is in the midst of the worst drought in more than 80 years. Hundreds of thousands of residents have been affected by frequent cuts in water supply. Local municipal governments have taken many measures, such as raising charges for high consumption levels. They have also offered discounts to those who reduce use and have limited the amounts captured by industries and agriculture from rivers.
After a week of an intense political activity, threats, bribery attempts, and long-lasting meetings in the Congress, the ruling National Party failed to garner the necessary votes to approve the constitutional status for a new military police. This force has been criticized because it would be parallel to the armed forces and respond directly to the president's orders.
We want to prove that Hondurans who have intentions of peace and of democracy for our country are really the majority. And we are also proving that we are a strong opposition formed by various political parties, such as the Anti-Corruption Party, the Libre Party, the Liberal Party, and the PINU. These parties come together as one force against the military police and from it acquiring constitutional status, which is the intention of the government of Juan Orlando Hernandez.
In less than 2 years of existence, the military police already has more than 8,000 agents who perceive greater salaries than soldiers and police.
This is a day of triumph for the people, a day of triumph for the parties of the opposition. The people win because this military police is only for the big ones, for the charter cities, for the businessmen, the big politicians. You and me don't have a military behind us as protection. So the people will win because less resources will be allocated to these forces.
The new force will be transferred back to the armed forces, and the president will have to live with this defeat, which represents a major backdrop to the militarization strategy that the National Party has been working on since 2010. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
Greek leftist leader Alexis Tsipras said Friday that an absolute majority for his Syriza party in Sunday's election would allow the government to renegotiate the country's onerous debt. Syriza is the frontrunner ahead of the elections, which can open the door to more progressive and socialist governments in Europe, whose population is eager for change. If Europe doesn't change, it will be shaken. Either it will change or we don't know if it will continue to exist as we've known it up to now. The United Nations has accused Israel of illegally demolishing the homes of about 80 Palestinians, mostly children, in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. The Israeli authorities destroyed almost 600 Palestinian-owned structures, displacing well over 1,000 people, the highest level of displacement in the West Bank since 2008. President Barack Obama will cut short his 3-day trip to India to travel to Saudi Arabia to pay respects following the death of King Abdullah. The president will pay his respects to the new King Salman. Saudi Arabia is a longtime ally of Washington and has been leading the manipulation of oil prices in order to negatively affect the economies of at least Russia and Iran. Obama was due to arrive in India Sunday for meetings with Prime Minister Narendra Modi before traveling to Saudi Arabia. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees accused the Ukrainian government of blocking urgent humanitarian aid intended for the people in the embattled eastern region of the country. The UN body explained the Western-backed government has enacted security laws that require special permits for transport of food, blankets, and other basic items to Donetsk and Luhansk. The United Nations also reported over 5,000 people have died in the conflict in Ukraine since April. A Major League Baseball legend has died. Ernie Banks hit 512 home runs during his 19-year career. Banks was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1977, the first year he was eligible, and selected to baseball's All-Century team in 1999. And speaking of legends, Klay Thompson sure proved to be one. He scored a historic record-breaking 37 points in only one quarter, making 9 three-pointers and going 13 for 13 overall. The Golden State forward ended the game with 52 points.
Facts that have marked the course of history. Productions designed in the English language and made for the English-speaking world. This is Documentary. Watch it on telesur.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.